shame on you!
You should call for a ceasefire too!
Labour councillors, shame on you!
You should call for a ceasefire too!
We are watching all these terrible things happening, and they are being supported by our government. And the main political parties are all lining up and saying we want it to be within international law, when it very clearly isn't. Our politicians are sending weapons to Israel to continue the bombing. And it's a shame, and it's outrageous. We are here because we want this to change, and it starts with our own council actually coming out and having the guts to say, this is right, we're opposed to it.
The report made here in Medway for the F-35s that are dropping bombs on Gaza. There's a responsibility on our councillors to stand up and say that that is wrong. There is a responsibility on them to say no more arms to Israel. There is a responsibility on them to call now for an immediate ceasefire. So what do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
Labour councillors, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Vince Maple, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Keir Starmer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We have Kelly Tolhurst and Raymond Chisty now calling for ceasefires. We also have Kelly Tolhurst calling for sanctions against those who are committing violence in the West Bank and those who are inciting violence in the West Bank. So that includes Netanyahu, that includes Siti Kotobeli, thank you, Ben Gvir, all of those people that have been going around doing the media rounds, making excuses for Israel. The first and only public statement made by Medway Labour was on 17th October, which does not go far enough. It failed to call for a ceasefire, and it failed to call for all hostages to be released. Medway Labour must now call for an immediate ceasefire, and for all hostages on both sides to be released. Since the atrocities committed by Hamas on 7th October, weak words by the international community have empowered the Israeli government to pursue a disproportionate campaign of violence. In addition to the horrifying civilian death toll, over 60% of Gaza has been destroyed. Nearly 2 million people have been displaced, and there has been huge expansion of violence in the occupied West Bank and occupied East Jerusalem. This includes the murder of hundreds more Palestinians, the eviction of thousands from their homes, as well as the administrative detention of thousands more. We are deeply concerned that parts made in Medway at the Rochester base of BAE Systems are supporting the killing of innocent civilians. We urge Medway Labour to write to BAE Systems and demand they adhere to the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights and the 2013 Arms Trade Treaty. We call for Medway Labour to demand that they cease their business relationship with Israel and ensure that no products built in Medway by residents of Medway are used to violate civil liberties or human rights overseas. And we want Medway Labour to write to BAE Systems to commission an immediate internal report on whether their continued business relationship with Israel is compatible with international law or BAE Systems' own product trading policy, knowing that Israel is committing war crimes and breaching international law. One such example is surrounding Israel's use of white phosphorus. Whilst we recognise that BAE Systems does not manufacture white phosphorus, the repeated use of white phosphorus on civilian populations in Gaza and Lebanon by Israel, which they no longer dispute, by planes that are part built in Medway, is a clear breach of international law and at least two elements of BAE Systems' own product trading policy. Specifically, is there a significant, specific and foreseeable risk of the product being diverted or transferred to an unapproved user or utilised for an unauthorised purpose? War crimes is definitely an unauthorised purpose. Can the product's end use reasonably be expected to violate civil liberties or human rights? Absolutely, they're committing war crimes. Whilst we recognise the essential part that BAE Systems plays in employment and training opportunities across Medway, we can no longer remain silent when our community's labour is being used to facilitate war crimes overseas. BAE Systems must adhere to international law and their own internal policies. They must ensure their products are not used to violate civil liberties or human rights. We are certain that BAE Systems and Medway Labour will agree that dropping white phosphorus on civilian populations using planes that are part built in Rochester means that Israel is using those products for an unauthorised purpose to violate civil liberties or human rights. which is surely a breach of their contract.
What do we want? When do we want it?